It's a Wednesday morning and time right now for another feature where we focus on the unconventional side of the law, where we call it So Now What? And we're joined once again by our expert lawyer and director at Legalese.co.za, Eitan Stern. So today's question is, I sold an item online and I didn't receive my money. So now what? And we'll be focusing on what your legal rights and recourses are when it comes to being scammed while selling and buying through personal online methods. Great to have you again with us, Eitan.
Nice to be here.
So, as you can imagine, at about this time of the year, January is hitting us hard.
Not Muniwari.
Yeah, exactly.
January.
So you might have a few gifts that you received over the December period that you decided maybe they're not really worth it, so I'm going to sell it. Or you sell something old and you do it online. Let's talk about what can actually happen and first focus on when it becomes a person-to-person sale kind of thing. What are the recommended things to do?
Okay, so, as the internet has entered our lives and social media has become a bigger and bigger thing, the world's become smaller. We're more connected. So it used to be that you could only buy things from a store. Now suddenly everyone's become their own store because of the introduction of marketplaces like Gumtree and Facebook Marketplace, which is becoming pretty big. So, the advantage of selling through these sites is that the sites can verify people. And so you've got some sort of recourse against the person. The difficulty in buying something from person to person is that your recourse is a little bit more limited if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're buying from a store, they've got a place of business, there's laws which apply to them. That's obviously going to be the safest. So it's fantastic that we can buy things online, and I really recommend we do start to buy people's second-hand goods instead of always buying new, but just note that it comes with a bit of a caution around it's hard to verify those people.
Yeah, you kind of have to do your due diligence to make sure that you go to a reputable website.
Yes.
You've at least seen ads about them.
And that you've seen the goods ideally before you pay money over.
Yeah. You've heard about them from friends, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned things like Facebook Marketplace and Gumtree, which are the more regular ones that we know about. But how regulated are these websites and online platforms in terms of the law, if any? Are there any laws that govern them? And then also, how liable are they when it comes to a transaction going awry for any reason?
So it's a great question. The answer is they're not really that regulated. So there's certain laws that they'll have to subscribe to if they're an online site, like protection of data laws, and that sort of thing. But essentially, their role is just to play an intermediary. They are not the company that is selling you the good, and they make that quite clear. So every time you go into one of these websites, there's most likely going to be terms and conditions on the website, sometimes written by us at Legalese.
Yeah.
And those terms and conditions make it clear that that is just a marketplace, that is not the person selling the site. So you generally don't have a lot of recourse against the site unless the site has done something wrong. But if you buy something if you buy a bicycle on Facebook Marketplace and the bicycle breaks, you've got no recourse against Facebook Marketplace. And you would know that because if you check their terms and conditions where you've agreed to that when you created your profile.
Who has the time, Eitan? That fine print, it's 300 pages.
Yeah.
But I guess it is that important.
It is that important. It's one of those things, I suppose. You're not going to read... A contract is binding whether you read it or not.
Yeah.
So if you're agreeing to use one of these sites and you are risking a lot of money on these sites, it's worth knowing what you're risking.
Yeah. So all things being equal with the site and things going well in terms of the transaction and you receive the goods, but something does maybe go awry later on, what are the steps to take if you're looking to take legal action against the person from whom you bought or sold?
So the name of the game here is really information. The more information you have about the person that you've bought something from, the better.
Yeah.
Now, when you're buying from someone directly, you don't have the Consumer Protection Act as a recourse, as you would if you go into a store, because the transaction isn't within their ordinary course of business. The Consumer Protection Act doesn't cover.
They're not a retailer.
They're not a retailer. But you still have common law remedies. If something goes wrong, you can still take the person to the small claims court or sue the person. So the name of the game is information. Do you know how to find the person? Do you have their contact details? Do you have their physical address? Do you have their ID number? If you were going to take action against this person, could you actually do it? Do you have the information? And I remember when I was younger, I bought a car from someone I met on Gumtree. Which I'm telling you, if I ever bump into that person again, it'll be a scene. But the car was broken. It was quite badly broken. And as soon as I called him back afterwards, Never picked up the phone
Wow.
again. So, and that was kind of my fault. I really should have had a bit more information about him if something had gone wrong. So if don't be Eitan. If you're going to be buying something online, you really want to get as much information as possible. And then after that, you can go to the small claims court in order to make a claim. And it's always a really good idea to notify the marketplace that you've met the person on, to say, here's someone on your marketplace who's a con artist or a fraudster or selling defective goods. And it might not get you your money back, but it might stop other people from getting scammed.
Yeah, well, great advice there. And we're going to ask you to stay a little bit longer so we can continue our conversation. We're talking about your rights and recourses when it comes to selling of goods or buying of goods online, because a lot of people are doing that these days. But hey, if you don't get that money, that January might extend a whole lot longer.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Well, right now we're continuing our discussion with lawyer and director at Legalese.co.za, Eitan Stern, about what your legal rights are when it comes to being scammed while selling and buying through personal online methods, which a lot of people are doing these days. So, Eitan, what are the legal channels to follow? Say you've sold something, you haven't received your money, or you've bought something and it hasn't met the requirements or the descriptions that were sold to you. What are the channels to follow? You said that they're common law remedies, and I'm assuming that's the line that we're following.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always a good idea to contact the marketplace. So to actually have it, at that point, it might be worth having a look at the marketplace rules to see if there's any rules that you can take recourse against the person.
Yeah.
Some of them will have rules. For example, on a marketplace set like Airbnb, they have a whole recourse of what you need to do if you rent your place out and something is damaged.
Yeah.
So it could very well be that the rules in the site that you're using is going to have some rules around what to do. Some of them have insurance for things that go wrong. Some of them might hold on to the money until you're happy with the goods. So first port of call, check out the website that you bought it from. Next port of call is it's your common law remedies. It's essentially to sue the person for damages, or to say like, well, I've bought something from you and this is defective, so now you need to give me my money back. Small claims court is a great option. If you have a claim of under 20,000 Rand, you can go to the small claims court. If it's over 20,000 Rand, you might need to chat to a lawyer. But the great thing about the small claims court is that you don't need a lawyer to go there. It's completely free.
Okay.
So you go down to the small claims court. And you
They help you through the process.
They should help you through the process, yeah. And it's actually quite a good remedy.
Yeah.
And those are kind of your recourse.
This brings me to one of my favorite legal terms, voetstoets.
Yes, a fantastic one. If you're buying online, you got to know voetstoets. Buyer beware.
Yeah.
That's illegal. It's part of our law, which says if you're a purchaser in a transaction, it's your responsibility to make sure that you've seen the goods, that you're happy with it, because it's buyer beware. If there's something that's wrong with it and you haven't picked it up, unless it was intentionally hidden from you, you got to beware.
So it's not even up to the seller. Say I'm buying a car, right? It's not even up to the seller to state, let's say, in the description somewhere there to say voetstoets. Because I mean, just putting that there means that you're buying the product as is. They don't even need to do that.
They don't really even need to do it. Now, it's going to depend, because there's lots of case law around buying and selling cars. There have been lots of different instances in buying and selling cars. But for sure, they don't need to do it. If you buy a car, it's your responsibility to have checked out the car, taken it to the AA, get a mechanic to check it. As long as you've been given the recourse, and as long as nothing has been intentionally hidden from you, then, buyer beware.
Okay. So how much are you within your rights to, let's say something's gone wrong and you bought something from Eitan 55567 on Gumtree.
On Gumtree,
and he's absolutely terrible, right? The car he sold me is terrible. Now I want to go into Gumtree and completely tell everyone out there on the platform that you are not to be dealt with. You're terrible. This has been my experience. Are you allowed to do that, or is that seen as some kind of slandering of somebody's character and name?
So it really depends on the extent that you do it. Yes, you are allowed to. We have freedom of speech. We can say whatever we want online, but there's a line there where freedom of speech stops and where slander or defamation starts. So, if you're going out there and saying things that are not true, that are irrelevant to the situation, that are going to damage this person's reputation unfairly, etc., then you might be causing harm to that person. That might be defamation. But if you're going and you're telling the facts, this is what happened. I got sold something that was defective. They said it had 4 wheels when it actually only had 3 wheels. As long as you're telling the facts of what happened, then that's totally fine. It's part of how social media works.
Yeah.
Review process. We want people to review and give honest reviews so that this online community can form opinions about good sellers and bad sellers.
Yeah. Now, another way in which people are trying to stretch their money during the month of January is through online pawn shops, because you can kind of loan your item to the pawn shop. They loan you money, and then of course you need to pay back the loan that they've given you in order to get your item back. So, what do you need to be careful of? About using these facilities, one, and secondly, making sure that you are able to pay back the loan, I'm guessing, in accordance to the terms and conditions that they state you need to pay it out for. Otherwise, you might suffer some kind of penalties like retention of your item.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, generally, if you're looking at these sort of ways to get credit or loans that are outside of, banks or financial institutions, you're going to be stepping into risky territory. And loan sharks don't get the name loan sharks for no reason.
Yeah,
generally,
and they're not registered FSPs.
They're not registered FSPs. They don't get the shark part of their name because that they're very friendly and fair guys and girls. So it's definitely something to be aware about. 100%, if you're going to be going to a pawn shop or a loan shark of any sort, read the terms and conditions. Only go to legal ones where you've got with the law behind you. If you're stepping into the Wild West, don't be scared if you're going to get ripped off. And then with pawn shops, you do have the Consumer Protection Act, which will protect you because that is within their ordinary course of business.
All right.
But generally, I would say step in with utter caution. And of course, the best way to make sure that you don't land up in January is to make sure that you don't spend money that you don't have.
Excellent advice. And on that note, thank you very much, sir.
Nice to see you.
Much appreciated. Of course, as always, you can catch Eitan online at Lawyers of Legalese and, of course, also on the website legalese.co.za.